Actors with 5 or more Oscar nominations are few and far between. In the long, nearly 100-year history of the Academy Awards, only 60 actors have done it, some winning a few along the way, like Olivia de Havilland, who took home trophies for 1946's To Each His Own and 1949's The Heiress, and some always going home empty-handed no matter what, like Glenn Close, who has collected 8 losses with 8 nominations, but more on her in an upcoming video. What are the names that come to mind when you think of actors with multiple nominations? Meryl Streep, perhaps, who might forever be the reigning champ with 21 nominations currently. There's Jack Nicholson, Bette Davis, Paul Newman, Al Pacino. Julianne Moore was nominated 5 times, finally winning in 2015 for her performance in Still Alice. And Shirley MacLaine finally won on her 5th nomination for her performance in Terms of Endearment.
I deserve this, thank you.
But there's one name that might not come to mind, even though it should, since she was the first ever actor to receive 5 Academy Award nominations, ultimately earning 6 in total, all for performances in films of the 1930s, like 1938's Marie Antoinette, 1936's Romeo and Juliet, and 1931's A Free Soul. Her first 2 nominations came in a single year, at the 3rd Academy Awards ceremony on November 5th, 1930, at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. I'm talking about the great Norma Shearer, who won her first and only Academy Award for her performance in 1930's The Divorcee, beating out some stiff competition, like Gloria Swanson for The Trespasser, Ruth Chatterton for Sarah and Son, and herself for her own performance in Their Own Desire, back in the day when a single actor could receive 2 or more nominations in the same category. But her greatest competition came from an actress who was also one of the most famous at that time, a star that oozed style, grace, and sophistication, Greta Garbo, also nominated for 2 performances that night, one for Romance and one for Anna Christie. Both legendary actresses had dual nominations going into the ceremony, and so with 4 possible wins between them, Best Actress at the 3rd Academy Awards was anyone's game. So why did the Oscar ultimately go to Norma Shearer? In this video, I'm going to break down the 1930 Best Actress race and discuss why Shearer defeated Garbo for the award. First, let's talk about the ceremony itself. The 3rd Academy Awards ceremony celebrated films released between August 1st, 1929 and July 31st, 1930, but the dinner and the dancing came first, followed by a lengthy, near 1-hour speech from Will Hayes, the head of Hollywood self-censorship, who spoke of how nothing unclean can maintain growth and vitality. Finally, the awards were given out, but not in the order we're typically used to. They gave director first, cinematography and writing soon after, then picture, and then, like in 2021, the ceremony ended with the acting awards. For the first time ever, picture and director went to the same movie, Universal Pictures' All Quiet on the Western Front, considered by many one of the best anti-war films ever made. The practice of awarding director and picture to the same film became common later on, but it wasn't the norm in the beginning. All Quiet on the Western Front beat out titles like The Big House and Disraeli, and its director Louis Milestone beat out King Vidor for Hallelujah and Ernst Lubitsch for The Love Parade, the latter movie receiving 6 Oscar nominations total that year, the record to that point of any film. Best Sound Recording was also introduced this year, the first new category since the inception of the Oscars, and the winner was Douglas Shearer, the brother to, well, someone we're going to talk about in a minute. This was the first Academy Awards ceremony to be filmed, which means I finally have footage to share from the ceremony of one of these earlier years. Clips like Louis B. Mayer giving Carl Laemmle a special Oscar for All Quiet on the Western Front.
Thank you, Mr. Mayer. I wish I knew how to express what is in here.
And Frances Marion winning the Best Writing Achievement Award for The Big House.
As the representative of the writers' branch of the Academy, it gives me great pleasure to present this award to you. All the more so because it was an original story written direct for the talking screen and not the adaptation of a play or a novel.
Best Art Direction went to Herman Ross for King of Jazz, and Best Cinematography went to Joseph T. Rucker and Willard Vanderveer for With Bird at the South Pole, the latter being the only documentary to ever win in this category. Best Actor had 6 nominations, the winner George Arliss nominated for 2 of his performances that year, beating out people like Ronald Colman for Bulldog Drummond and Lawrence Tibbett for The Rogue Song, George Arliss won not for his nominated performance in The Green Goddess, but for his nominated performance in Disraeli, an historical drama. Arliss, who would stay active in films for most of the 1930s, was the first British person to win Best Actor, and also the first to win the award for a role he'd played in film and on the stage. And then there was Best Actress, another stellar year for women working at the top of their craft. Before we get to the winner, let's discuss the nominees. First up is Nancy Carroll, nominated for her performance in The Devil's Holiday, about a gold digger who marries a man for his money, but finds she actually loves him and wants to keep him around despite his family's disapproval. This was Carroll's only Oscar nomination in a career in film that spanned from the late 1920s to the late 1930s. Under contract at Paramount Studios, Carroll often wasn't satisfied with the quality of her roles, and she reportedly earned a reputation for being difficult on set. Despite her receiving the most fan mail of any star in the early 1930s, she was released from her contract by the studio and ultimately retired from films in 1938. Next up is Ruth Chatterton for her role in Paramount Pictures' Sarah and Son, which the New York Times called emphatically ingratiating entertainment. Chatterton played one of the two title characters, Sarah, an Austrian immigrant who has a goal of becoming a vaudeville entertainer. I talked about Chatterton briefly in my video about the second Academy Awards, when she was nominated for Madam X. Sarah and Son would be her second and final Oscar nomination, Chatterton retiring from films like Nancy Carroll in the late 1930s. And then there's the actress I talked about in my video about the first Academy Awards, and one you better believe I'll talk about eventually when I get to the 1951 ceremony, when films like All About Eve and my all-time favorite Sunset Boulevard were nominated in top categories. Gloria Swanson we all know and adore from that magical Billy Wilder film, but her Oscar nomination for playing Norma Desmond was her third, Swanson having received her first two in the early days of the Academy Awards. Her first nomination was for Sadie Thompson, an award she lost to Janet Gaynor, and at the third Academy Award she was nominated for her performance in The Trespasser, in which she played a stenographer who elopes with a wealthy man.
Love, your magic spell is everywhere. Love, I knew you well and found you fair.
This film is unique in that a sound version and a silent version were produced. Silent movie icon Swanson struggling once she reached the sound era. But this would be only one of two hit films she made with sound, the other, of course, being Sunset Boulevard. Now, it's time for Greta Garbo, who was nominated twice for Best Actress at the third Academy Awards, for her performances in Romance and Anna Christie. Garbo launched her film career in 1924 in Sweden, and her performances caught the attention of Louis B. Mayer, chief executive of MGM, who brought her to Hollywood a year later. Her first American film Torrent was a giant hit, and her performance in 1927's Flesh and the Devil made her an instant international star. But at the end of the 1920s, many at MGM feared that Garbo's Swedish accent would impair her work in sound films, and they delayed the shift as long as possible. MGM was the last Hollywood studio to convert to sound, and Garbo's last silent film, The Kiss, was released in late 1929. Finally, she did indeed make it to the sound era, and really, there was nothing for anyone to worry about, because Garbo's success continued at the box office and at the Academy Awards. The lesser known of the two films she was nominated for was Romance, in which she played an Italian opera star named Rita who falls in love with the son of an aristocratic family.
That love is for someone, but that's not for me.
Her performance was highly praised, the New York Times saying Garbo's performance is perhaps as good as anything she has done on screen. And the magazine Picture Play said her performance is a thing of pure beauty. But the film, which also received a Best Director nomination for Clarence Brown, isn't as well known today as Garbo's other movie she was nominated for, Anna Christie. This is one of the most famous and acclaimed films of 1930, the one that audiences flocked to in droves because it was the first time they got to hear Garbo speak. Playing the title role, a mysterious woman haunted by her past, Garbo gave one of her best performances ever, critics calling it superb, Variety saying that in all departments, it's a wow picture. Here was Garbo's famous first line, nominated for AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movie Quotes.
Give me a whiskey, ginger ale on the side. And don't be stingy, baby.
Many were surprised by the low pitch of her voice, but no one was surprised by the high quality of her performance, one that could have won the Oscar if it weren't for the legendary Norma Shearer. She was also nominated for 2 films that night, Their Own Desire and The Divorcee. Shearer got her start in modeling, and then she received her break in film, being 4th billed in a 1921 B-movie called The Stealers. Soon thereafter, Shearer received an offer from Louis B. Mayer Pictures. By 1925, she was one of MGM's biggest attractions. She realized, however, that she would have to fight hard to stay ahead of the pack. When she sensed newcomer Garbo was one of a kind, she went to Irving Thalberg and pleaded for better parts. Her first talkie was 1929's The Trial of Mary Dugan, followed closely by Their Own Desire and The Divorcee. The lesser known of the 2 films she was nominated for is Their Own Desire, MGM's final film of the 1920s, in which Shearer played a young woman upset by the revelation that her father is leaving her mother for another woman. This is a rare film where the star received an Oscar nomination and lost to herself, because, finally, the 1930 winner for Best Actress was Norma Shearer for her performance in the risque drama The Divorcee. Also nominated for Picture and Director, The Divorcee tells of a woman named Jerry, played by Shearer, who struggles in her marriage with Ted, played by Chester Morris, the popular and unhappy Jerry living a wild party life. MGM production head Irving Thalberg bought the rights to the novel Ex-Wife in 1929, and his original choice for the role of Jerry was Joan Crawford, one of the biggest stars at the time. Shearer, who was married to Thalberg, wasn't in the running for the role for a long while, because it was believed she didn't have enough sex appeal, so she had to arrange a special photo session with photographer George Hurl for Thalberg to finally relent and give her the role.
I'll forgive you anything, dear. Can't you please forgive me? When I try to look ahead without you, why, everything goes black. I love you, dear. I can't go on without you.
I feel like the winner of Best Actress that year was a bit of a toss-up between Shearer and Garbo, since both were nominated for 2 different films. Anna Christie was very much acclaimed, and so this might have been the case where just a few pivotal votes made the difference. It's certainly possible Shearer's Oscar win might have been helped by her being married to MGM's second-in-command Thalberg. Rumors abundant at the time that Academy members who worked for MGM had been strongly advised to vote for her. There was also the strange development that, even though nobody was supposed to know the winners until the night of the ceremony, 3 days before, both Shearer and George Arliss posed for publicity photos with their Oscars in hand. Clearly there was still some questionable circumstances happening behind the scenes, but at least, unlike at the second Academy Awards, when Mary Pickford won for her underwhelming performance in Coquette, Shearer has a strong turn in The Divorcee, which certainly didn't hurt her chances.
And it is their will that you receive this award for the outstanding performance by an actress for the year 1930 for your work in The Divorcee.
Thank you. I'm very thankful to my fellow workers for the great honor they bestowed upon me. In taking this award, I feel I'm sharing it with the directors and the writers and the fellow actors whose encouragement made possible whatever degree of success I may have attained. I should like to uphold the position of my sex, but for once a woman is at a loss for words to tell you just what this statue means to me. In encouragement, inspiration, and gratitude.
No matter who won the Academy Award that night, Greta Garbo and Norma Shearer are 2 of the most important figures in the history of cinema, and what a joy it has been to talk about their work in this video. Garbo retired early, in 1941 after her performance in Two-Faced Woman, but beforehand she racked up more Oscar nominations for her performances in 1936's Camille and 1939's very famous film, Ninotchka, cementing her status as a movie icon. Shearer retired from films only a year later, in 1942, after picking up many more Oscar nominations throughout the 1930s, scoring a whopping 6 in total between 1930 and 1938. Her brief time in the spotlight, like with Garbo, made her a famous Hollywood figure for life, and her Oscar win for The Divorcee proved just how talented of an artist she was. Norma Shearer and Greta Garbo are 2 actresses you will certainly be hearing more about on my channel in the weeks to come, as I continue exploring the Academy Award ceremonies of the 1930s. The history of the Oscars, alas, is about to get even more interesting. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments below who you think should have won Best Actress at the 3rd Academy Awards. Do you think Shearer was the right pick, or did Garbo deserve to win? See you next time.